Good morning, everybody.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. Happy New Year.
Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Good morning from Texas.
Morning, Rob.
Hey, Rob. Good morning.
Good morning. I'll be with you guys in a moment.
Good morning, guys.
Morning.
It's a beautiful day in Delray Beach.
There we go. How many of you are booked for R4?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Lillian.
Morning.
The two Bobs are.
Can't
I'm
wait to see you
going.
guys. Awesome. We're going to have multiple select events, so we're super excited to see as many of you as possible.
Good
Um,
morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
How
morning.
are you? So we're gonna have some new faces on here.
Yeah,
Um,
congratulations. That's exciting.
yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Period.
In my Hollywood Square. Oh, I just lost her. In my Hollywood Squares here, I had Sandy Hancock in the top left. Are you still on, Sandy?
Yes, I am. Good morning. Glad to
Good.
be here.
Good
Morning.
morning. I wanted to just make an exciting announcement. Sandy Hancock of Remax Results is now part of the Remax Select umbrella here. We're pleased to announce that yesterday we met with, was it over 100 of your team members there?
Yeah, it was about
That
100. Hmm.
was an amazing turnout. 187 agents, Sandy? Is that about
We have,
right?
we have 185 agents.
Wow.
185 agents, the top Remax organization in is it the state or just the
Mhm.
Missouri
In the
market?
St. Louis region, which is sort of Missouri and Illinois around St. Louis.
Okay, and over 30 years with Remax, runs one of the most stable growing businesses I've seen in years, and want to welcome Sandy. And if anybody is from Remax Results, put your hand up so we can all welcome St. Louis here. Yes, welcome,
Welcome to the
welcome.
family.
Welcome.
Yeah,
This is
well,
our Friday family gathering that we do every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 o'clock your time. And the purpose of our get together here is for me to transfer some knowledge or principles that I've come across this week that I feel would be extremely valuable to everybody. And this week, with it being the beginning of the year, I wanted to talk about some disciplines and some things that I've noticed throughout my career, which have helped agents make a significant improvement in their business in a short period of time. And I don't want to mention a name, but there's a lender that I met about 10 years ago. And when she was early on in the business, she made an investment of $3,000 a month when she couldn't afford it and joined an organization called The Core. This is not to promote The Core, but I want to share with you what that instilled in her and what type of a result it had. And the core is a group where they're extremely high accountability. They actually verify. They don't even take your word for it on what you make. They want to see your pay stub or your commission statement to see that you're really doing what you do. And they have principles that are non-negotiable. And I want to say that this lady went from probably a $50,000 income earner to a $300,000 income earner in less than 2 years. And when I asked her what happened, she's like, "Well, Rob, you remember that thing I joined that you said it was a little expensive? Well, it really provided me the change in my life that I needed." And I believe part of that was because she made the investment, she really committed to do the activities that got her where she needed to be. And it was things like, doing 5 handwritten notes a week or a day. I don't remember what it was. She had to meet with two business sources in person per week. So for her, that was mostly meeting with real estate agents or financial advisors. Um, she had to commit to doing at least 2 hours of self development or training. She had to implement systems so that she can grow. And the most important thing was she lived her life by a calendar. Okay. And I think we all know that probably utilizing a calendar and kind of time blocking really ensures that things get done. And one of the other things that I observed from watching this agent or this loan officer was they did the most important things first, right? You know, they did probably the harder things first thing in the morning so that when stuff gets in the way, you've already succeeded for the day. Okay. Because does anybody ever have an intention to prospect in the afternoon? Anybody ever have that intention and it gets all impossible because things happen? Right. So this is something that I wanted to share with everybody. And who knows what a KPI is? Anybody
Key
know what a KPI
performance,
is?
it's a key performance indicator.
That's it. Yep. Does anybody know what their KPIs are? Okay, that's why we're here today. So, you know, when you run a large business, they look at KPIs to see, you know, these are the levers that drive the results. And there are a lot of KPIs in our business. And being that most of us are soloists, right, where we kind of do everything, we probably don't formally write out key performance indicators. We probably don't have as much structure as we might benefit from, if that makes any sense. So some of the key performance indicators, and I put them on that sheet that's included in the email that goes out with the video. Does everybody get that email with the video? So you don't have to write everything down. You'll have this document there that you can just open up, and it has everything on that I'm talking about. But some of the key performance indicators that I would be measuring in this real estate business would be, you know, where does our business come from? You know, our lead generation. And when I say lead generation, a lot of times people think about paid leads, but lead generation is probably in our ecosystem is probably more referral business, right? That is generating us our opportunities. Does anybody know exactly where all your business came from in 2025? Like if I asked you right now, you know, I did 27 deals, 11 came from here, 4 came from there. Does anybody want to volunteer and tell me what your business looked like?
How about Vicky in Plano?
Yeah, Vicky.
I don't think you can hear me well on my system, but it was all repeat business, old customers.
It was all you had all repeat business.
Yeah.
And Vicky, does that repeat business come to you just by them calling you, or do you nurture your sphere of influence in your clients?
Yeah, I market them like every other month. I don't call them every day. They just come to me.
Okay. And if you don't mind me asking, just for the benefit of the group, how many transactions was that last year?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't look at my report.
Okay, so
That's a Monica question.
I'm just I'm gonna suggest that our business, a lot of people are satisfied with where they are, and you can run it like that. Or if you wanted to take a look at where your numbers were and take a look at, you know, how many of them are generated by calls, how many people call you, and there's one thing, Vicky, do you have everybody in a functional database? Okay. Do you use Bold Trail or something different?
No, it's my personal.
Okay.
My personal.
Because here's an insight. Go ahead, Vicky.
I work with a retired community. They're all retirees. You know, it's an older crowd and a lot of death.
Okay. So I'm going to just share with the group, and Glenn Baker introduced me to, I'm trying to think of the name.
Lofty?
No, not Lofty.
Sisu?
No. There's a program that will tell you how many people in your database transacted, and I'm at a loss for words for that right this second. But in Glenn's world, and I think
Follow-up
Glenn
boss.
did. I'm sorry,
Uh,
I couldn't hear you.
Follow-up boss. It tells you how many transactions you have, and was that
No,
it?
no. There's an add-on. Oh, it's called Fellow.
Fellow.
FELLO. Okay, and this is probably more appropriate for teams, but the concept is appropriate to us. Okay, now Glenn, I think, had 8 team members or 9 or 8 last year, and he did well over $100 million in volume. And I think it was 70% increase in his business over the prior year. So everything looked really great. However, he looked at his fellow, which was the database of himself and his team members, and he found out that he had more than 4.5 times the amount of business that he did, which was nearly $500 million in business that was conducted by people in his database that he did not get. Let that sink in. So he was doing 1/6 of the business that went on in his database that was verified through technology. And that would be public record showing that one of his clients bought or sold without him. And yet that's painful, but it's also valuable to somebody like a Glenn. And, again, I'm not suggesting that we all go out and use Fellow, but what I am suggesting is that we have an awareness that there's transactions. Even if, Vicky, you're doing most of your business by referrals, you're probably missing, and I say this compassionately, you're probably missing half of the deals at minimum because you don't even know because they didn't call you, right? And if unfortunately there's, estates and death, maybe the people in the estate don't know that the client would have preferred to work with you and they just went with whoever they found, or somebody called them from, looking at a probate list. I would encourage everybody to print out this list, okay, and at least familiarize yourself with it, and then be conscious of where your leads are coming from. Okay, let's measure that. And the way that it really has value is if we take that measurement and then we say, hey, maybe I can increase this by 25%. Maybe I can increase this by 50%. Okay, and figure out the strategy. But team leaders, you all need to be doing this. Managers, when you meet with agents, you need to encourage them to know these numbers. Where are your leads coming from? Are you paying for leads? Okay, are you paying for leads? What's the conversion rate? Okay, and conversion rate would be, if you're a Vicky and you're not paying for leads, but maybe every 11 conversations you have with your clients or your sphere, you get 1 referral, right? Oh, somebody next door to me is going to need to sell, right? And then you track out of 24 of those referrals, you got 19 appointments and 7 listings, or you got 19 appointments and 17 listings. Okay. And it's fun to measure this as well. Okay. Because a lot of times, I don't know if Eric Pruitt is on the call, but, when I was working with Eric last year doing the planning for 2025, he had thought that probably 1/3 of his business came from one source, but it was probably only about 12%. So he was like, wow, that's very enlightening. I was spending a lot more time on that one source when it wasn't really yielding what I had thought it was yielding. Okay.
I don't think so.
Appointment to conversation, appointment set to appointment held. Okay. Appointment held to business. And, even if maybe it's a listing, you want to measure listing to sale ratio, right? I don't know if anybody's having expired listings yet, but that's probably something that's a possibility. And here's another one that I think is a missed opportunity. And I think that, Remax as a whole is going to outperform our competition here. But if we don't know the numbers, it's not helpful. Let me just see. Who knows stone cold your listing to sale ratio, listing price to sale price ratio? Anybody?
I do. I'll go.
Okay.
It's a little over 100%. I had four investment properties last year that sold, and they were they messed my numbers up. But that's okay. I take them all, right? But it's usually a little bit better than that. So about 103.
Okay. So, Judy, you could actually go and you could use your data with integrity and say, the residential property owner occupied sales I did last year sold on an average of 72% quicker than the industry average, and they sold for 103.9% or whatever that number is.
And thank you, because I actually did that. I had a listing appointment this week, and I took my printout for the year, and I did let them know. I'm like, I did have some skew my numbers that are it's usually higher. So I did that, and thank you, because that was yeah, you wanna be able to explain it, right? So thank you.
Yep. And I don't know if everybody is shy, Judy, or everybody doesn't know their numbers, or maybe they're looking them up right now. But if I were looking to work with somebody, even if it was somebody that I worked with in the past, it would be helpful to know that, Judy has a 3.1% over ask price average, and maybe even comparing it to your local market. Like, I don't know, is there a specific geography that you focus on, or is it just the entire metro?
Well, I'm dual license, Illinois, Missouri, so I'm a little all over the place. I do primarily work by referral, and so that kind of, I don't have a niche market at all. My niche is that I work by referral. And go back to earlier this week when we met, you were actually the reason that I had that report with me. So I you already added value to my business. So I appreciate that. But I loved what you had said about when you're taking a listing or when you're working with a buyer, and you said, pull their list to sale ratio, that listing agent's list to sale ratio, and see what it is and see how reliable they are. And I thought that was really a smart thing to do. I've never done that exactly, but there is a agent in my primary marketplace here in town that she has an excellent reputation for pricing. And so she's pretty reliable on that, but I never knew her exact numbers, but now I know that I will be doing that. So I thought that was incredible advice. So thank you.
My pleasure. One other tip that I think would be really helpful, and maybe before I do this, I want to just ask somebody to say, how do you answer this question? You get a referral from a past client, so it's not somebody that you have personal experience working with, so they don't implicitly trust you, but they were referred to you. You take them out, they look at some properties, they see something that they like, and they say, hey, we're interested in this property. What's the next move that we do? How do you handle it?
Ask them if they have a buyer agency agreement signed with another agent.
Okay, so Bobby, assume that they've signed the buyer's agency agreement with you and they're committed to working with you, right? They say, Bobby, we think we like this house. Okay. Do they generally come to you and they say, what do you think we should offer? Do you tell them, I can't tell you? Do you say, here's the comps? How do you address it when there's an interest identified?
It's a two-parter. I stress to them any offer they want to write up, I'm going to write up. It's up to the seller to make the decision. If it's an unrealistic offer, I'll be the first guy to tell you. But if you want me to present it, my job is to present it. So let's go over the comps and I'll show you what similar properties are selling at, and then you can make the decision from there.
Okay. I think that's a very fundamental, giving them comps is a very logical way of helping them make the right choice. So thanks for sharing. Is there anyone that does anything on top of that?
I
Glenn, would you do anything different?
usually look to see how many days on market the house is. And if there's multiple offers, within that first couple of days, I can give them some type of report saying, hey, houses that have sold, let's say 7 days on the market or less, this is the percentage that they have sold over asking price. It's not a guarantee, but at least it's some type of gauge to look at.
Okay. I think
Rob,
I
you
think
could
that
also show them, just like you're saying, that the listing to sale ratio. So when you see that homes in your market are just, for the sake of argument, selling at 105% over asking price, you share that with the buyer, certainly.
Now, Bobby, do you isolate that to days on market? Because that number would be skewed.
I don't really focus on the days on the market. I understand why you should do that, or maybe that's something different I could do, but I don't really throw that into the mix.
Okay, yeah. So Gary is kind of thinking a little bit. For those of you from Missouri new to the meeting, I'm a bit of a spreadsheet head, and I'm a bit of a numbers cruncher. And I believe that a property that's been on the market for 3 days, 3 weeks, and 3 months, they behave differently. And being a buyer rep, I'm giving them more information to empower them to make the right choice. So, and Bobby, right now we're in a big seller's market still, right? Woodbridge.
Yes.
So maybe it's not as significant, but if you're saying, hey, this one's been on the market for 3 weeks, maybe we can go in a little bit below ask. This one's been on for 3 days and it's going for on average 104%. That might be another elevated level of service and something that we can identify when we get the buyer agency agreement signed. Say, hey, here's a service that I provide. Once we find a property you're interested in, I do A, B, C, and D. And I would bet you that, even if agents do it, they're not having that conversation as a added value to get the buyer agency agreement signed. I also want to say that from my meeting yesterday, I learned that our amazing agents in St. Louis gave themselves a raise, right, Sandy?
Mm-hmm.
It went from what, 2.58 to 2.63 commission side?
Average commission side, everything included, we went from 2.55 to 2.63, which is a 3% increase in our commissions.
Yep, and it's probably a 6% on the buyer side, because our listing sides were probably the same. So kudos to the agents that can demonstrate their value. And thanks for sharing that, Sandy. I see the hands are up. Mary, is your hand up for a question, or was that from before?
Oh, sorry, I think it's stuck.
Okay, no worries.
And
Brenda,
Rob, I just want to say you had mentioned something about what do we say, and I don't get into that. I don't get into negotiations on the buy side with my client. I tell them I'm going to give them 2 prices, one that the comp supports, and the other one that's the price to win the home. And then I give them the terms that they need to decide on, meaning like the commentary terms for inspections and things like that. That's what their decision is with me. The price is the price. I'm not writing an offer that's not going to win. So my job is to guide them, and I'm very specific about it. But I think that I change I push them to the terms, not the price, because the price is the price.
Right. So that's your expertise. That's why they hired you, Glenn, right? Because you're going to give them where you need to be, and then they need to decide the closing date, inspection, things of that nature. Correct?
Yeah, I don't have times to negotiate a buy side price with somebody. That seems silly to me. It's time, right? If I've done the right thing with the buyer strategy session in advance of all of this, they're going to understand that why I'm coming to them with those 2 prices, right?
Yep. All right. Well, that's that's unique, and I can appreciate, respect that. So, how do you frame that when you have that conversation, Glenn? If what's your average sale price?
$771.
Okay, so if it was a property that you think needs to be at 775 to win it, and maybe it's listed at what, 749?
How would I frame that?
Yeah, how would that go if I were your
So,
client?
so I give them two prices. One is the comp supported one, which has all of the digital links behind it that shows them why I came up with that. And then I'll say, here's the price that you need to win the house, and here's the three reasons why that price is important. And no one questions it. I mean, I set a tone during the buyer strategy session to help them understand what they can expect. And then I divert their attention to the terms, not the price, because I'm going to put out the price. I'm not going to give them a price that I don't think is going to win, because that's not going to make anyone happy, right? So I just am very specific about that.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Brenda, you had a comment?
Yes, I guess maybe this is more cultural than anything. My approach is a little different. I guess it's a little soft. My culture is a little more safe face. My approach is a little more asking them. Your question was if they come back with a number when they're trying to do, they like this house and this is the price they want to offer, right? So my question to them, I return back to them with another question. How do they come out with that number? I want to hear why they want to offer that number. Because sometimes when they just pull that number out of nothing, I want them to hear how silly that sounds in their own words, right? Sometimes when they repeat that, they realize how silly it is. And then I ask them the next question, how much they like that property. How much are they willing to lose it if we were to go with that number? Because I'm in Texas, and Texas is a really strange market right now. I would say we could be in some cities, which I work about 4 different counties. We could be in one city still in a seller's market, and then you go 30 minutes or 20 minutes away, and we are in a buyer's market still. We are in that transition. So we might be in a place or in a neighborhood where we have multiple offers, and then you drive the opposite way another 20 minutes, and you could be where listings are staying 3 to 4 months in the market. So, we have a really, really interesting market in Texas.
So Brenda, you said you are softer so that you let them save face. Is that what you said?
I'm more of a safe face, kind of person. No, not to say that I let them take control. I'm just trying for them to think that I let them make the decisions. I let them think that they have the decision,
Right.
but I guide them to do what I want them to do, thinking that they are making the decision.
So maybe another option that you have in your toolbox, Brenda, is to go to them and say, this one's only on the market for 8 days. Properties have been on the market for 8 days, and Plano are selling for X, right? Properties in the market for 30 days are selling for Y. It's a percentage. And I really think you're going to create some separation if you say, you know what, I hope you don't mind, Brenda, but I took the time to look up this agent, and on their last 11 listings, they've sold on an average of 9 days for 4.2% above ask. If you're interested in this property, where do you think we need to be, right? And you're all successful, and not everybody does it the same way, but you're here on a Friday for some new ideas, and that might be another value add. And I think it's a tremendous opportunity when you're getting your buyer agency agreement signed to establish the process, right? We establish the process. Say, hey, here's how I'm different. Here's how I'm going to help you make the right decision. Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Bobby, you had another comment?
I do, Rob. I want to circle back to a listing real quick. I know we're talking about buyers, but recently I met with a homeowner that had an unrealistic expectation on pricing, which I know we all experience. So I haven't done this in a while just because of the marketing, but after I left there, I went back and I researched the expired listings. And lo and behold, the price range that this guy wanted to be in Woodbridge Township probably had about 6 or 8 listings that had expired in that price range. So when I called him back and I said, listen, I did some more research and here's what I came up with. And I sent him the information. And when he saw that his price range was unrealistic, expired listings kind of changed the game a little bit. So we were talking about expired listings before. I'm going to be using this more in my listing presentations.
Okay.
Hey, Rob, I wanted to mention that um, in the comments, Kim Cameron from St. Louis has some interesting information about what we're talking about right now, if she's available to talk.
That why I couldn't get stuff done.
Kim, are you on?
I can talk. Sometimes there's a lot of chatter in the background, so
With
it's
the
quicker
hot
to
water, but
a note.
Hold on.
when I was
Hold on. I'm
running
going to mute.
water in the
Unmute.
sink to
Hold on.
wash
I'm
my
muting
face.
everybody. Now you unmute yourself to talk, please. Thank you.
No, we source all of our business. I have since 2004. I can tell you where every piece of business comes from. But when it comes to buyer consultations and dealing with setting expectations, we have a competing offer guide that we go over from day one with the first buyer consultation. It's probably emailed after the first conversation. And we're talking about that the entire way through, all the ways that we can help them be competitive and win without hanging them out to dry. Because they always like the new shiny object. They like the house that's day one on the market and their budget's $1 and they can't go over. And nobody ever looks 10% under their asking price so that they can properly compete. So some of those tools just go a really long way. We also don't put buyers in our cars unless they're fully underwritten approved, which is subject to a contract and appraisal. So if we need to waive things on the contract, we can with peace of mind and know that our client's going to be able to sleep at night, and so are we. So those are just a few things that we do. And, God forbid they have a lender online that they don't know, then we're going to guide them with kid gloves. But, if you don't know the lender and I don't know the lender, you really should talk to somebody that I know and trust that's going to either reassure you that you're in good hands there or be a better option. And we know that Motto and the agents, the loan officers that we're all close with and have, decades of relationships are always going to do a better job. They're worried about not only taking care of the client, but the multi-millions of dollars of business they've done as a result of our relationships. So we're controlling in a kind way and an efficient way, and we're extremely systemized. So hopefully that's helpful.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. So I don't want to go too much deeper into this, but as you can see that maybe measuring this is it's not random. In other words, if one of us has 2 out of 3 of our offers are accepted and somebody else has 1 out of 5, do you think that's random? Do you think it's the clients? I'm going to ask you, Kim, just because you're the last one to speak. Do you think if somebody gets 2 out of 3 of their buyer offers accepted, which would probably be exceptional, and somebody else, performing at a similar productivity level gets 1 out of 5 accepted, is it because they get unreasonable clients, or is it because of something that we do? What do you think?
Yes and no. I mean, sometimes we bat 1,000 and other days we just bat 0. I have a team of 7 and some weeks we write multiple offers and none of them get accepted. I think sometimes buyers need to lose. They need that reality check. They need to want it more. And there's so many factors that we don't control. And we set that expectation of like, hey, you may love this house, but the next guy may be moving from a coastal market and 500,000 as a drop in the bucket, and they'll pay 50,000 more because they're going to be homeless and you're not. So regardless of the other scenarios, we are going to put together our very best foot forward. And if you wake up tomorrow and say you would have paid $5,000 more, then you need to pay $5,000 more today.
So I'm going to make a bold statement and say that, over time, whatever that number is the number that you own, right? Because the randomness, nobody's a victim. Like nobody gets all the crazy buyers and sellers, right? In other words, we have a business, we have a funnel that we run, and over time. And Kim, your point is something I think I spoke about 2 weeks ago, which was, the best agents, if every year they have 2 or 3 transactions that fall apart, if two of them fall apart in February, they don't stress out because they kind of know that, all right, there's two of my three fallouts happened in February. The rest of the year is on average going to be good because they know that it's 2 to 3 transactions. The amateur agents freak out about something falling apart because, the sky is falling. Okay. And I'm going to say that, if somebody does get 2 out of 3 of their buyer offers accepted, it sounds like Glenn might be at a very high level with his strategy. And he puts in, if he gives them a binary option, X or Y, instead of saying, hey, you make your choice. That's probably not the style that most of us will adopt. But I think if he gets, most of his offers accepted last year, this year it's going to be the same. And there are agents and there are team members here, Kim, that are getting 1 out of 3, 1 out of 5 offers accepted. And there are other ones that are getting more than 50% of them accepted. And what I'm suggesting is it's the process, not the client. If that makes any sense. And I just want to put.
I think that's fair. I think sometimes it's a combination of both. But when you're setting up that process of, hey, this property's been on the market 52 days and it's been 45 days since our last price reduction, guiding the client that this is a place that you can gobble and jump in before the next price reduction. So, and that's all part of the process and systems. I mean, what do we say? Systems set you free.
So I'm going to say, I think 2 things can be true at once, Kim. One is that, yes, it depends, but I think over time, it depends becomes your average, right? It becomes what you own, right? Mm-hmm. So, and measuring it will give you what your number is, right? Looking at how many offers you submit, how many you get accepted will give you an opportunity to identify a weakness that we can improve. Okay, that's part of measuring your KPIs. And I'm going to make the bold statement that nobody is a magnet for bad clients, right? I mean, we all have the opportunity to choose who we decide to work with, and then we own the result over time. And there are times when transactions fall apart for the best of us. There are times when offers don't get accepted, but if we're doing 12, 15, 24 transactions a year, the law of averages will give us our number and we own that number. Okay. And it's probably going to be pretty similar to last year. And absent a change in strategy, it's going to be the same next year. Bobby, you didn't have another question, did you? Okay, good.
No, Rob.
Other things, and your listing performance, your average days on market, again, it's what we put out there, and Bobby, it's how we coach our homeowners to make the right choice for themselves. And I think a lot of times homeowners are emotional, and when they're emotional, they probably don't make the best decisions. Could we all agree on that? Like, if you were objective, you'd probably make a better decision if you were emotional. Yes. And I'm going to give an example. Troy Dombrowski he's a great agent, probably not on the call here, but he was telling me that, he's coached his son's little league team to their first championship last year. And he said, Rob, the most challenging part to this is every parent thinks their kid's the best and should be playing ball. And that's because they're the parent. They're not objective in that circumstance. And the same is true for homeowners. They can't be objective with their own property. So I just put that analogy out there. Listing appointment to listing taken. Okay. Usually I get over exaggeration on that. Oh, I get 95% of my appointments sign up. If you do have 95%, then maybe you're not going out there on enough appointments where you're being challenged. Or maybe you're that good. Your marketing spend or your cost per appointment, measuring those numbers, right? Some agents like Vicky do a lot of referral business and repeat business. And then other agents spend and measure their marketing, and some agents spend money on marketing. They don't know what's providing the right return for them because they don't have time to measure it. Okay, but I would suggest that you get in the habit of measuring, because what gets measured improves, or what gets measured changes. sales and financial metrics. This is a flag for team leaders. A lot of times, team leaders focus a lot on growing the team, but not growing the profitability of the team. And I'm going to use the airplane analogy, which is, if there's ever an emergency, you got to put your mask on first and be healthy so that you can help, a young child or somebody that's next to you. And as a team leader, if you're not running a healthy business, it's hard for you to help your team members. Just an analogy I like to use. Net commission after expenses, true profit, average commission per transaction, your buyer seller mix. So those are things that I would really encourage that, we put top of mind. And these are, in my opinion, pretty easy to measure items. Client satisfaction, especially if you're a team leader. Does anybody measure, client satisfaction? Does anybody measure referral rate? I don't know. Is Glenn still on? Does anybody measure like referral rate from past client? I'm going to take that as a no. Post-closing follow-up. Like, does anybody have a multi-year post-closing follow-up plan? You do, Kim? And Sandy, you do? Who wants to unmute for a second?
Well, we do offer the personal marketing company 5-year follow-up plan for our agents. So they can just check a box when they turn in their commissions and we order it for them and get that started. It costs about $35 per agent or per client for 5-year follow-up.
That's great. And Sandy, I want to ask you a question. Do all your agents know about your list that you email out to when you take a new listing to people that sold there?
I'm not following.
So if I take a listing, weren't you telling me that? Yeah, you got it now. So why don't you tell what happens there? And I'm wondering if the team actually uses that as a value when they take the listing.
I'm not sure. Well, when we have a new listing at the company, our agents automatically get 3 emails from us. And one is an email that's got our marketing plan in it, and it's editable, so they can tweak it, add their own things to it, and forward it on to the client, just as a reminder of what they're going to be doing for them. And then we also have an email from our front desk person that is automatically generated that reminds the agent that we're here for them. We can help them make design center flyers, that kind of thing. And we send one more email. We send an email out to the 200 agents who most recently sold a home surrounding that listing, either on the buyer side, sell side. So we get 50% open rate with those listings. Because think about it, you just sold a house on Main Street and I send you an email about a new listing on Main Street. What are you going to do? You're going to open the listing and see what it's listed for. So those are 3 emails that automatically get generated from our staff for our agents.
And I think that a seller ought to know that you're that organized and you take that level of care to alert the last 200 people that had a transaction, 200 agents that had a transaction in that market.
Mm-hmm.
Because that puts you in a different space, because very few brokers, including myself, I don't have all that data to do that right now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
but even if you did the reverse prospecting list off the MLS and sent an individual email, sort of copy and paste or BCC email to the reverse prospecting list, you could still generate that same type of, interest, I think.
Yep. And Kim, did you have something that you wanted to share as well?
I joined Sandy's company a year and a half ago, and I've known Sandy for my whole career. It's amazing. But the other things that enhance what we're doing from a staff automation standpoint, besides an email going to 200 agents within a radius of each listing automatically, is they'll also send a personalized letter to 30 homeowners within the immediate neighborhood or radius that have the highest potential using predictive analytics, highest potential of selling. And sometimes we will have the staff just print us 3 sets of 30 labels and do just listed, under contract, and just sold. And then my agents before open houses will strategically visit those homes rather than a tell 20 approach. They'll try to visit those homes. And as a result, it's, anywhere from, so far it's been 2 extra listing opportunities from things that are all part of my member dues. So it's been a huge added benefit, and it seems like they just make it look easy.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing that. This list here, if you want to go on and print it up, it might be just it's not a perfect all-inclusive list, but it's kind of a benchmark for maybe some things that you might want to pay attention to, especially now as we're in the first quarter of the new year. We're early stages. Things like how many referrals can you get from an existing client? Okay, if you work with a buyer or you just sold somebody's property, does anybody have a metric for how many referrals you expect to get from that and what that process is? Does anybody have a process for nurturing referrals during the transaction? Because I'm aware that who's that?
Angie.
Oh, Angie. What do you do?
Every year, at the beginning of the year, I gather all my past clients, all the people I've sold homes to in that year, all the people that have listed their homes with me, and I put them into categories. And the people that have bought and sold that year, they get a letter from me thanking them. If they purchased a home, I give them a copy of the HUD, and I remind them they need that for their tax purposes, and that helps them a lot. They like that. And I always, in the beginning of the year, without question, is when I get most of my referrals because of the contacts that I have with them. And I send all my past customers just a letter stating what happened to me this year, and, if they want to interact with me, and I get a lot of response from that. And that's most of my business is referrals.
So Angie, that's kind of top of mind when you send them their CD or their HUD, right? Then you're kind of in their inbox with something of value, and then they're more likely to send you a referral, correct?
Yes, correct.
I'm
not asking for it, though. I'm not asking them in the letter. It's just, it's a personal thing that I do, and it just comes. It just comes.
Thank you for sharing. And Brenda, I'm going to go to Brenda, and then I have a quick comment. Go ahead, Brenda.
You say something very interesting, Rob, and this is actually a question, because I always heard this when our buyers are the more excited, when they are on the peak of their emotions, is during the transaction, right? So that's when we really should be asking for the referrals. And your question was directly, then what are we doing during the transaction, right? And honestly, we are so involved in worry about taking care of them, we forget to ask for the referrals in that moment. So what is the best way you recommend, or when is the right moment and the process that you are recommending us to do during the transaction?
So what I would recommend would be doing it at milestones. Okay, and the milestone might be when they get their offer accepted, right? Another milestone might be when they get when the appraisal comes back, and you say, hey, Brenda, great news. The property appraised for 4,000 more. I'm really thrilled that you're getting a great value. By the way, do you know anyone else that I could serve or I could help? Right. And one tweak, and I don't know if Lisa Malservisi is on here, but maybe she'll add a comment. One tweak would be, instead of, anyone looking to buy or sell, do you know anyone else that I could help, with their real estate needs, because buy or sell sends like a signal of like a more of a sale as opposed to a service, right? And you stole my thunder here, Brenda, because I want to talk about doing it during the process, because during the process, they're more aware of everybody else that's doing a transaction, right? Oh, you know what? My nephew's looking to buy a house, or my coworker's looking to buy, because when they're in the process, their reticular activator is up and they're listening to everybody else that has that commonality with them. Okay. So I would say milestone. You got the home inspection back. You have great news. You got the mortgage commitment. You have the appraisals in. You do the walkthrough, right? I would find a way to politely ask that question at all of those milestones in the process, and that makes it easy to remember. Tony, and then we're going to go to Wilson. Tony, you got a question, comment?
I'm unmuted now. Yeah, you were showing a list that I'm sorry, I didn't get what list is that. How can I get that?
Okay, so on the list, Tony, do you get the video email with my video that reminds you of the meeting every week?
Yes.
On the bottom of that email, there's a link to click on, and you can download the list. So that's on every week. I give you my notes.
Rob, it's also in the chat. It was posted to the chat.
It's also
it's
posted.
in the chat. Okay.
Also posted it to the chat. Wilson, you had a comment or question?
Yeah, one thing that I've started doing out here that was recommended to me was a thank you for your trust. Let me share who we trusted in the transaction, and let me share who I trust. And what I do is during the transaction, I provide the list of the people that they have assisted, my auxiliary, which is like your home inspector, your pest, your roofers, HVAC, whoever it is. I provide all the contact info to the clients there. But then after the transaction closes, it's another one that goes out that says, thank you for your trust. Here's the people that I trust if you ever need some help. And it's the handyman, the cleaners, again, HVAC, home inspector, da, 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 da. But I provide the list of people that I trust as well. And then underneath it, it says something to the effect, it depends on each person, of thank you for your trust. If you know anybody else who needs help and guidance in the way that I do business, I'd be more than happy to take 15 minutes to talk to them about how I can assist. And then nothing about referrals, nothing like that. And what we've seen is that it started getting sent to family members. That list of contractors, the home inspector, the handyman, the cleaners is now getting sent to the mom, the dad, the uncle, the sister, the brother of, hey, these are people in Tucson, Arizona that my realtor recommended that I've used this person, this person, this person. And suddenly I'm starting to get referrals based on, hey, you recommended Charlie, who's a handyman. Does he do electrical work? Oh, you know what? No, he doesn't. So glad that I helped your daughter with her sale. I'd really recommend Adam at PRC Electric. Here's his phone number. And it just, once again, you're an asset to your client.
So Wilson, you even reminded me of another opportunity, okay? And this opportunity is many of us have really tremendously valuable, trustworthy referral sources that we have. But I'm going to challenge you all to go to the people that you've been referring to for multi-years, if it's 2 years or more, call them up and say, hey, Andrew, I just wanted to thank you for our working relationship. By the way, I hope I hope if you ever have any referrals, I would appreciate them coming back to me as well. That your vendors will now be like, oh, Wilson just asked for business because he's been referring business to me. It's that law of reciprocity. And a lot of times we have connections that just don't even think about referring us. I want to go back to, it was maybe last week or 2 weeks ago. Glenn made a comment to his brother, hey, everybody in town, how come I never get any referrals? And I think he got 2 or 3 referrals.
Well, Rob, I can say that, like I said a year ago, sometimes it feels like there's nobody else in this meeting. You're preaching to me. And last year, as much as I hate that, you told me to ask the people that help me every day in a real estate transaction. And I called my handyman, who's a buddy of mine, now one of my best friends. And I said, dude, how come I've sent you 15 people this year and you haven't sent me one? Kind of screwed, brother. And I sold him a house up in Phoenix. And in 2025, I closed 3 referrals off of him, totaling over $2 million in business. So it's that simple ask of I give to you, so we scratch each other's back, right? And the idea of that is lost on a lot of us because we don't see them as a referral resource, even though they're our referral resource. We should also be theirs. And it's simple with starting the conversation. We pay the money, let's have a talk.
Yeah.
I interject something. I always said the best thank you is a referral. Anybody says thank you, the best thank you is a referral. Don't forget that. Use it effectively. It works.
Yeah. And we have, and this is not just a T2 thing, but here for those of you who aren't yet platinum, let's strive to be platinum, and you can join us out in Denver next year. But one of my focuses on our T2 follow-up is I want everybody that's a member of the T2 group to make at least 4 referrals to their colleagues at different markets, right? And I remember as soon as we had the Texas offices come on board, within one day of the mastermind, David and I got 3 referrals back and forth between Texas and our other markets, which to me was just astronomical. I mean, I would have thought probably like an announcement in Florida and New Jersey, but I didn't see it with Texas. But if we have that top of mind awareness, if we have a cousin in St. Louis, we have a nephew in Scottsdale, that we ought to be able to, think about how we can, give them the best of the best in terms of service, and also get those referrals going back and forth, because that's top of mind awareness. So, not only do we get to share great ideas with, extremely talented people in different markets where things are done slightly differently, and we can all benefit from, things that they might do differently in St. Louis. Maybe now we'll, create an email list to send it out to the last 200 people that sold a property in that area. We can borrow ideas and share them across this great network. So, and next week, I want to have, whenever we speak, because we're growing so fast, if we can just say, hey, this is Wilson from Tucson, and, this is Brenda from Plano or from Dallas. This way that everybody will have a better awareness of who we are and grow ourselves. And participating, also makes you a little bit more visible. So you always get something back for making a contribution. So it's already 12:01. Welcome, St. Louis. Super psyched. And look forward to seeing everybody next Friday. Team leaders, 8:30 on Monday mornings, Eastern time, we have a meeting. And then Sandy, we're at, is it 10 o'clock on Tuesday? We're doing a meeting, or Monday? If you can unmute yourself.
Noon Eastern time on Tuesday, 11 a.m. Central time on Tuesday.
11 Central on Tuesday. And
I'll send you a link.
All right, you got it. That's for St. Louis new team members. And everybody have a fantastic weekend, and look forward to seeing you next week. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Rob. Bye.
Bye-bye.